The attic of our old family home had always been a place of intrigue and mystery. It was a dimly lit, dusty space filled with relics of the past, but one item stood out among the forgotten treasures. An antique porcelain doll, its once vibrant dress now faded, and its glassy eyes bearing an eerie, lifelike quality. One stormy night, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to uncover the doll's story. As I reached out to touch it, a sudden gust of wind rattled the attic windows, and a chill settled in the air. It was as though the doll itself had come to life. I picked up the doll, feeling a shiver run down my spine as I examined its delicate features. The emotions in its eyes were uncanny, as if it held a piece of someone's soul within. It was beautiful, yet there was an undeniable sense of sorrow about it. As I held the doll, I began to experience strange visions. I saw a young girl with dark hair and tear-filled eyes, clutching the doll tightly. Her emotions flooded into me: loneliness, abandonment, and an overwhelming sense of loss. It was as though the doll had absorbed the girl's emotions over the years. Determined to uncover the truth, I researched the history of the doll and discovered a tragic tale. The doll had belonged to a girl named Amelia, who had lived in our family home many years ago. She had been orphaned and had found solace in the doll, treating it as her only friend. Amelia's life had been marked by tragedy, and she had vanished under mysterious circumstances. The doll had been left behind, a silent witness to her suffering. The more I learned about Amelia's story, the stronger the connection between us grew. I felt an overwhelming sense of empathy for her, a need to uncover the truth of her disappearance and bring closure to her restless spirit. One night, guided by a strange compulsion, I ventured into the depths of the attic once more. As I held the doll close, I heard a whisper in the darkness, a mournful, ghostly voice. It was Amelia, her spirit bound to the doll, begging for release. With tears in my eyes, I vowed to help Amelia find peace. Together, we embarked on a journey to uncover the secrets of her past and bring closure to her troubled soul. The emotions that coursed through me, empathy, determination, and a deep sense of connection to a long-forgotten soul, filled me with a sense of purpose. The curse of the forgotten doll had become a haunting quest for redemption and closure, a reminder that even the most ordinary objects can carry the weight of the past. My heart pounded as I stood at the entrance of Hollowbrook House, an imposing, century-old mansion shrouded in a thick fog that seemed to crawl out of the surrounding woods. I had heard rumors of its haunted past, but curiosity had lured me here on this dark and stormy night. The wind howled like a mournful ghost, rattling the ancient trees that lined the overgrown path leading to the front door. Lightning illuminated the mansion's eerie silhouette, revealing cracked windows and a roof covered in moss. Raindrops hammered against my umbrella, each one echoing in my chest. Swallowing my fear, I pushed open the creaking door, revealing a dimly lit foyer. The air inside was heavy with a sense of foreboding, and the smell of dampness filled my nostrils. My footsteps echoed through the empty halls, but it was a distant, haunting melody that sent shivers down my spine. I followed the ghostly tune, each step taking me deeper into the mansion's labyrinthine interior. Portraits of stern-faced ancestors lined the walls, their eyes seemingly following my every move. The floorboards groaned underfoot, protesting my intrusion, as if the house itself resented my presence. As I reached the source of the melody, I entered a grand ballroom, its chandeliers swaying ominously. There, standing in the center of the room, was a woman in a tattered white gown. Her dark, flowing hair obscured her face, and she moved with an otherworldly grace, dancing to the haunting music that emanated from nowhere. My heart raced, and I couldn't tear my eyes away from her mesmerizing dance. She twirled and swayed, her movements a mix of sorrow and longing. I approached cautiously, my voice trembling as I asked, "Who are you?" She stopped, her head turning slowly to reveal hollow, empty eyes that seemed to pierce my soul. Her voice, like a whisper from the grave, echoed in my mind. "I am Isabella," she said, her words laced with sorrow. "I've been trapped here for centuries, seeking redemption for my sins. Isabella's story unfolded as she recounted her tragic fate, betrayed by her lover, condemned to a life of torment in Hollowbrook House. Tears welled in my eyes as I listened to her tale of love and betrayal, and I felt an overwhelming sense of empathy for her. But as I reached out to touch her, a bone-chilling gust of wind extinguished the candles, plunging the room into darkness. Isabella's haunting melody turned into a mournful wail, and I was enveloped in a suffocating cold. Panic gripped me as I fumbled for the exit. With trembling hands, I managed to find the door and stumbled back into the stormy night, leaving Hollowbrook House behind. The memory of Isabella's sad, empty eyes haunted my dreams for weeks, a reminder of the darkness that lurked within the mansion's walls. To this day, I can't forget the emotions that coursed through me that night: fear, empathy, and a deep sense of unease. The haunted melody still echoes in my mind, a haunting reminder that some stories are best left untold. It was a warm summer evening when I stumbled upon the abandoned carnival that had set up shop on the outskirts of town. The faded, peeling posters advertised bizarre attractions and thrilling rides, but what caught my attention was a weathered mirror tucked away in a forgotten corner. Approaching the mirror, I couldn't help but notice how distorted my reflection appeared. My curiosity got the better of me, and I reached out to touch the glass. As my fingers made contact, a sudden chill ran down my spine, and I was drawn into the mirror. Inside, I found myself in a twisted carnival world, a nightmarish version of the one I had just left. The once cheerful rides now creaked and groaned with a sinister life of their own. The laughter of children had transformed into eerie, mocking giggles that seemed to come from all directions. Fear gripped my heart as I navigated the twisted carnival grounds. The rides moved on their own, their rusted mechanisms grinding and screeching. Monstrous caricatures of clowns with sharp teeth and malevolent grins leered at me from every corner. I stumbled upon a funhouse, its entrance beckoning me with flickering neon lights. Inside, the mirrors lining the walls reflected grotesque versions of myself, twisted and contorted, each mirror revealing a different nightmare. I could feel the terror welling up inside me as I tried to escape, but the mirrors seemed to multiply, trapping me in an endless maze of distorted reflections. As panic set in, I heard a chilling whisper from the shadows. "You're trapped here forever, just like the others." I turned to see a figure cloaked in darkness, their eyes gleaming with malice. I recognized them as the carnival's sinister ringmaster, a cursed soul who had been trapped here for eternity. With every ounce of courage, I ran past the sinister figure and smashed through one of the funhouse mirrors. As I shattered the glass, a blinding light engulfed me, and I was violently pulled back into the real world. Gasping for breath and drenched in sweat, I found myself standing in front of the cursed carnival mirror once more. The carnival had vanished, and the mirror appeared as ordinary as any other. My heart still raced, and the fear I had experienced inside the mirror haunted my thoughts. I left the carnival grounds that night, shaken to my core by the emotions that had coursed through me: terror, despair, and the overwhelming urge to escape the nightmarish world I had unwittingly entered. The cursed carnival mirror had shown me a darkness beyond imagination, a reminder that some mysteries are best left unexplored. The Whispering Woods had always been a place of intrigue and dread in our small town. Legends spoke of eerie whispers that emanated from the dense, ancient forest, and few dared to venture deep within its shadowy depths. On a moonless night, driven by both curiosity and youthful bravado, I decided to confront the mysteries of the woods head-on. I entered the forest armed with only a dim flashlight, its feeble beam casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance with malevolent intent. The leaves rustled overhead, their unsettling whispers growing louder as I ventured deeper into the heart of the woods. My heart pounded in my chest as I moved cautiously, the branches and underbrush scratching at my skin like ghostly fingers. The forest seemed to come alive with a sinister presence, and I could feel eyes watching me from the darkness. Suddenly, I heard the faintest, most chilling whisper, barely audible but filled with menace. It sounded like my name, uttered in a voice that seemed to crawl up from the depths of despair. My breath caught in my throat as I swung my flashlight in the direction of the sound, but there was nothing there. Determined to unravel the mystery, I continued forward, guided only by the relentless whispers. The words were indistinct, yet they conveyed a sense of sorrow, regret, and an unquenchable longing. It was as if the very trees themselves were mourning some ancient tragedy. The deeper I delved into the woods, the more the whispers seemed to multiply, surrounding me from all sides. I couldn't escape the feeling that I was trespassing on hallowed ground, disturbing something ancient and vengeful. As I ventured further, the ground beneath my feet became treacherous, and I stumbled upon an overgrown clearing. In its center stood a gnarled, ancient tree, its branches twisting into grotesque shapes. The whispers crescendoed, forming a cacophony of despair. I approached the tree, my heart pounding, and realized that the whispers were emanating from the very bark of the ancient giant. With trembling hands, I touched the tree's rough surface, and the whispers grew louder, enveloping me in a suffocating darkness. The voices were overwhelming now, a chorus of anguish and torment. I could feel their emotions, their pain, and their need for release. As the whispers reached a deafening crescendo, I screamed, overwhelmed by the weight of their sorrow. In an instant, the whispers ceased, leaving me standing in the darkness of the whispering woods. The ancient tree stood silent, its branches no longer twisted in agony. I stumbled back, my mind reeling from the emotions I had experienced: fear, empathy, and a deep sense of unease. I made my way out of the forest, vowing never to return to the whispering woods. The chilling whispers and the emotions they carried haunted my dreams for years, a reminder that some mysteries should remain untouched and some places left unexplored. Desolation Bay had always been a place of eerie legends and maritime mysteries. As a seasoned sailor, I had heard tales of the ghostly ship that haunted its waters, a spectral vessel that had eluded capture for centuries. One fateful night, I set out to uncover the truth behind the legend. The moon hung low on the horizon, casting an otherworldly glow upon the bay's calm waters. A shroud of fog enveloped the bay, adding an extra layer of mystique to the already eerie atmosphere. I guided my small boat into the heart of Desolation Bay, the silence broken only by the soft lapping of water against the hull. As I scanned the inky blackness, I saw it, a ghostly ship emerging from the fog. It was a tall, three-masted schooner, its timbers rotting and sails tattered. The ship was illuminated by an eerie, otherworldly light that seemed to emanate from within. A sense of unease washed over me as I approached the phantom ship. The air grew cold, and a chill ran down my spine. The ship's deck was deserted, but I could feel a presence, a spectral crew lurking in the shadows. I stepped aboard, my footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. The deck was slick with moisture, and the wind whispered through the rigging like a mournful dirge. I ventured further, my heart pounding, determined to uncover the truth. In the captain's cabin, I found a logbook, its pages filled with the captain's final entries. He spoke of a cursed treasure, a pact with a malevolent entity, and a never-ending voyage of torment. The emotions etched into his words: desperation, regret, and an overwhelming sense of doom sent shivers down my spine. As I continued to explore, I encountered the spectral crew, their ethereal forms flickering in and out of existence. They were trapped in an eternal nightmare, their faces contorted with anguish, their eyes filled with sorrow. I made my way to the ship's bow, where a lone figure stood, staring out into the abyss. It was the captain, his spectral form translucent and haunting. I could feel his torment, his overwhelming need for redemption. In a voice that seemed to emanate from the depths of the ocean itself, the captain spoke to me, his words filled with sorrow. "We are cursed, doomed to sail these waters for eternity. Please, help us find redemption." The weight of the captain's plea filled me with empathy and dread. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure how to free the ship and its tormented crew from their eternal torment. As I left the phantom ship of Desolation Bay, the emotions I had experienced, fear, empathy, and a deep sense of responsibility, weighed heavily on my soul. The legend of the ghostly ship remained a mystery, but I knew that the emotions I had felt that night would haunt me for the rest of my days. The abandoned asylum loomed on the outskirts of town, a decaying relic of a bygone era. The building had stood empty for decades, its windows shattered, and its halls cloaked in darkness. The locals spoke of it in hushed whispers, warning of the chilling secrets that lay within. One gloomy evening, driven by a morbid curiosity, I decided to explore the asylum's forsaken halls. The air was thick with a musty, oppressive scent as I pushed open the creaking front door. The dim light of my flashlight revealed peeling wallpaper and shattered furniture, remnants of the lives once lived within these walls. As I ventured deeper into the asylum, a sense of dread settled over me. The building seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, as if it held the memories of the suffering that had occurred within. I could feel the emotions of the past, a palpable sense of despair and anguish that clung to the very air. Whispers echoed through the hallways, the voices of the long-forgotten patients who had suffered here. They murmured of mistreatment, of confinement and isolation. Their words were filled with sorrow, their emotions raw and haunting. In one room, I discovered a series of crude drawings etched into the walls. They depicted the torment of the patients, their distorted faces and contorted bodies a reflection of the horrors they had endured. The emotions conveyed in those drawings, fear, sadness, and a desperate longing for freedom, sent chills down my spine. As I explored further, I came upon a basement filled with rusted restraints and decaying medical equipment. The atmosphere grew even more oppressive, and the whispers of the past became deafening. It was as if the very walls were closing in on me, suffocating me with the weight of the asylum's dark history. In a small, forgotten cell, I encountered the spirit of a young girl. She appeared before me, her eyes filled with tears, her voice trembling as she recounted her tragic tale. She had been wrongly committed to the asylum, torn away from her family, and locked away in darkness. Her emotions, fear, loneliness, and a desperate desire for justice were etched into her spectral form. As I listened to her story, I felt a deep sense of empathy and sorrow. I vowed to uncover the truth and bring justice to the forgotten souls of the asylum. With the girl's guidance, I delved deeper into the asylum's dark past, unearthing secrets that had long been buried. The emotions that coursed through me, fear, empathy, and a burning determination to right the wrongs of the past, fueled my quest for justice. The abandoned asylum held haunting secrets, but it also held the stories of those who had suffered within its walls. Their voices would not be silenced, and their emotions would drive me to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. In the attic of my grandmother's old Victorian house, I stumbled upon a dusty wooden box that had been tucked away in a forgotten corner. It was an intricately crafted music box, adorned with faded roses and delicate filigree. As I wound the key and opened the lid, a haunting melody began to play, filling the attic with an eerie and enchanting tune. The music box had been silent for decades, and its songs seemed to echo with emotions long forgotten. The melody stirred something within me, a mixture of nostalgia and sadness that I couldn't explain. It was as if the music held the key to a hidden past. As the haunting tune continued to play, I closed my eyes and was transported to a different time and place. I saw a young woman, her eyes filled with tears, as she listened to the same melody on a moonlit night. Her emotions were palpable: heartbreak, longing, and an overwhelming sense of loss. I felt an inexplicable connection to this woman, as though her emotions had become my own. It was as if the music box had opened a doorway to the past, allowing me to experience her feelings and memories. Driven by a need to uncover the mystery, I delved into my family's history and discovered a long-forgotten love story. The young woman in my visions had been my grandmother, and the haunting melody had been a gift from her beloved, a soldier who had gone off to war and never returned. Their love story had been marked by separation and tragedy, and my grandmother had held onto the music box as a token of their love. The emotions that had filled the melody, love, loss, and the bittersweet memories of a lost love, had become a part of her soul. As I continued to explore the attic and unearthed old letters and photographs, I pieced together the fragments of their story. It was a tale of love and sacrifice, of a love that had transcended time and distance. One night, as I listened to the haunting melody of the music box, I felt a presence in the room, an ethereal figure that resembled my grandmother in her youth. She smiled at me, her eyes filled with love and gratitude, and then she faded away, her spirit finally finding peace. The emotions that had coursed through me during this journey, nostalgia, love, and a deep sense of connection to my grandmother's past, reminded me that the power of music and memories could transcend generations, allowing us to bridge the gap between the present and the past. In an old, decrepit mansion that had been in my family for generations, there hung a portrait that had always intrigued me. The subject was a young woman with striking, mesmerizing eyes that seemed to follow you wherever you went. The portrait exuded an air of melancholy, and it was said to be cursed, bringing misfortune to those who gazed into the eyes of the subject for too long. One stormy night, I found myself alone in the mansion, drawn to the portrait like a moth to a flame. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, and the woman in the portrait appeared to come alive, her eyes gleaming with an uncanny intensity. As I stared at the painting, I felt a strange sensation, a connection between myself and the woman in the portrait. Her emotions began to wash over me like a tidal wave, filling me with a deep sense of sadness and longing. It was as if her soul had been trapped within the canvas, and her emotions were spilling out into the room. I watched in awe as the woman's story unfolded before me. She had been a talented artist in her own right, her passion for painting rivaling her beauty. But her life had taken a tragic turn when her beloved, a fellow artist, had been struck down by illness. The emotions etched into the woman's eyes were heart-wrenching: grief, despair, and an overwhelming sense of loss. Her art had become an outlet for her pain, and she had poured her soul into the very portrait that now hung before me. Determined to uncover the truth, I delved into my family's history and discovered that the woman in the portrait had been my great-grandmother. Her life had been marked by tragedy and heartache, and she had passed away in obscurity, her talent and her love for her lost companion forgotten by all but the haunted portrait. As I continued to study the painting, I realized that the woman's spirit was reaching out to me, seeking release from her eternal torment. I could feel her presence in the room, her emotions mingling with my own, and I knew that I had to help her find peace. In a solemn ritual, I vowed to honor her memory and her artistry. I hung the portrait in a place of honor in the mansion, where it could be seen and appreciated by all. The act of recognition and remembrance seemed to bring solace to the woman's restless spirit. The emotions that had coursed through me, empathy, sorrow, and a deep sense of connection to my great-grandmother's legacy, reminded me that even in the face of tragedy and loss, art had the power to transcend time and touch the hearts of those who were willing to listen to its haunting tale. On a moonless night in the remote countryside, I found myself driving along an old, winding road. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, and the dark forest pressed in on all sides. As I rounded a bend, I saw it, a spectral stagecoach, its wheels creaking and horses galloping, despite there being no real horses to pull it. My heart leaped into my throat as I pulled my car to the side of the road, the unearthly sight drawing me closer. The stagecoach was a relic of the past, its once elegant woodwork now rotting, and its windows cracked. But what chilled me to the bone were the passengers inside, their ghostly forms shrouded in tattered clothing. As I approached the stagecoach, the emotions of the passengers washed over me. Fear, confusion, and a sense of impending doom gripped my soul. It was as though their anguish had seeped into the very air. The stagecoach came to a halt, and the spectral driver turned to me, his hollow eyes locking onto mine. His voice, like the rustling of dead leaves, echoed in my mind. "Help us," he whispered, his words laden with sorrow. I could not resist the pull of their torment, and I climbed into the stagecoach, my heart heavy with empathy and fear. The passengers gazed at me with hollow, haunted eyes, their emotions palpable: desperation, longing, and an overwhelming need for release. As the phantom stagecoach resumed its eerie journey through the dark forest, I listened to the passengers' stories. They spoke of a cursed treasure, a fateful journey, and a tragic accident that had left them trapped in this spectral purgatory. Their emotions became my own, and I felt a deep sense of responsibility to help them find closure. With their guidance, I uncovered the location of the cursed treasure and set out to break the curse that bound them. The journey was perilous, filled with challenges and danger, but I was driven by the emotions that had filled me: empathy, determination, and a burning desire to free the tormented souls of the phantom stagecoach. When I finally unearthed the cursed treasure and released it from its ancient prison, a blinding light engulfed the stagecoach. The passengers' anguished cries turned to cries of relief, and their spectral forms dissipated into the ether, leaving behind a sense of peace and closure. I watched the stagecoach fade into the darkness, its ghostly passengers finally finding rest. The emotions that had coursed through me, fear, empathy, and a deep sense of responsibility, reminded me that even in the face of the supernatural, our capacity for compassion and courage could lead us to extraordinary and haunting experiences. The old lighthouse stood tall and solitary on a desolate cliff, overlooking the tumultuous sea. It had long been abandoned, its haunting silhouette a foreboding presence in the coastal town. Rumors spoke of eerie apparitions and unsettling echoes that emanated from within its decaying walls. One moonless night, drawn by a morbid curiosity, I ventured to explore the forsaken lighthouse. The wind howled like a mournful ghost, and the salted air stung my skin as I climbed the rickety stairs to the lantern room. The ancient mechanism creaked and groaned, and I felt as though I were ascending into the very heart of darkness. As I entered the lantern room, a shiver ran down my spine. The room was filled with the ghostly echoes of the past, a mournful melody that seemed to be carried by the wind itself. I turned to see a spectral figure, a lighthouse keeper, his form translucent and ethereal. The lighthouse keeper beckoned me closer, his eyes filled with an unspoken plea. The emotions in his gaze were undeniable: loneliness, isolation, and a deep sense of duty. It was as if he had been bound to the lighthouse for all eternity, unable to find rest. With a sense of empathy and a burning desire to uncover the truth, I listened as the lighthouse keeper's story unfolded. He had been a dedicated keeper, devoted to his duty of guiding ships safely through the treacherous waters. But a tragic accident had claimed his life, leaving his spirit bound to the lighthouse. As I continued to explore the lighthouse, I discovered a hidden chamber filled with journals and logs detailing the keeper's lonely existence. The pages were filled with his longing for human connection, his regret for the time lost, and the weight of his unfulfilled responsibilities. The emotions that coursed through me, empathy, sorrow, and a deep sense of responsibility, compelled me to help the lighthouse keeper find peace. Together, we worked to repair the long-neglected lantern, restoring its guiding light to its former glory. As the lantern room once again cast its brilliant beam over the stormy sea, the lighthouse keeper's spirit began to fade, his gratitude and relief palpable. With a final, ghostly smile, he vanished into the darkness, leaving behind an echoing silence that seemed to fill the entire lighthouse. I left the lighthouse that night, haunted by the emotions I had experienced. The haunting echoes of the lighthouse had become a reminder that even in the loneliest and darkest of places, our capacity for empathy and connection could bring solace and release to tormented souls.